I am going to guess something about you, and I will wager I am right. When your shovel or your hoe goes dull, and you finally get round to sharpening it, you try to make it sharp. Really sharp. Sharp like a good kitchen knife. Sharp like you could shave with it, because sharp is sharp, and sharper must be better. And I know you do this because I did it for 20 years. I would put a beautiful, shining razor edge on a hoe, proud as could be, and I could not understand why it went dull again by the end of the same afternoon. I thought I was buying poor steel. I thought I just had to sharpen more often. I was wrong, and it was my own hand doing the damage. My grandfather stopped me at it one day. He watched me honing a shovel down to a knife edge, and he took it out of my hands, not unkind, and he said, "Boy, you are not carving a Sunday roast. You are going to war with the ground. A blade for cutting and a blade for digging are not the same blade, and you are ruining a good tool trying to make the one into the other." And that was the day I learned the thing I am going to give you now. Sharpening a garden tool is 5 minutes of easy work with a file that costs $15 and lasts your life. But you have to stop sharpening it like a knife, and once I show you why, you will never go back. A single housekeeping line and then we get to work. There is a free paper of 15 fixes, each $1 or less, waiting under this video. Leave your name and it comes straight to you. Enough of that. Here is the whole thing in one sentence, and everything else follows from it. A sharp edge is a thin edge, and a thin edge is a weak edge. Think on your kitchen knife. It slices a tomato because the edge is ground down thin as thin, a fine, keen wedge. And that same knife, if you tried to chop a brick with it, would chip and fold and ruin in one blow, because thin is not strong. Thin is for slicing soft things clean. Now your shovel. What does a shovel do? It goes to war with soil, with clay, with gravel, with the odd buried stone and root all day long. That is not slicing a tomato. That is chopping the brick, over and over, 1,000 times an afternoon. So if you put a fine, thin knife edge on that shovel, the ground folds it and chips it and blunts it in the first 10 minutes, exactly like it blunted my hoe, and you are back to sharpening before you have finished the row. What a digging tool wants is not a thin, sharp edge. It wants a stout, stronger edge, a fatter wedge that bites the ground well enough but is thick enough behind the bite to survive the pounding. Sharp enough to slice a root and cut into the soil, but not so thin it dies on the first stone. That is a different edge entirely from a knife, and it is made at a different angle, and the angle is the whole secret. So when you catch yourself trying to get a shovel wickedly sharp, stop. You are not failing to sharpen it. You are sharpening it wrong. You want it right, not keen. And I will show you exactly what right looks like. If the plain way suits you, do an old man one kindness. Tap like so. The machine shows this to another fellow sharpening his shovel too thin. Then subscribe. One old skill a week, honest limits and all. Let us do the shovel and the hoe first, for they are the same job, and they are the easy ones. This is where most folk are afraid to begin, and there is nothing to be afraid of. First, the one tool you need to buy, and buy the right one, for here is another place folk go wrong. You do not want a sharpening stone, and you do not want the grinding wheel spinning on the bench. You want a file. A plain mill file, 8 to 10 inches long for a shovel or a hoe, and it costs you $15 or $20 at any hardware store, and it will outlive you. The men at the university name that same file. The stone is for knives. The grinder spins so fast it can overheat the steel and ruin its temper, take the hardness right out of it, if you are not skilled, and most of us are not. The file is slow and safe and gives you all the control. So, the file. Now, before you file, clamp the tool. This matters, and it is the safety of the whole business. Put the shovel head in a bench vise if you have one, or brace it firm under your knee, or stand on the handle with the head up against a step. If the tool can wobble, the file will skate and catch your hand. Clamp it so it cannot move. And wear your glasses, for little bright filings come off, and a glove on the hand that does not hold the file is a wise thing for a beginner. Push toward a cutting edge, and you want your fingers well clear of where it will go. Now, the angle. This is the heart of it. You do not have to measure with any tool or guess in the air, because the tool already knows its own angle, and it will tell you if you look. Somewhere on that edge is the bevel, the little slanted face where it was ground at the factory, or the last time it was done right. Your whole job is to lay the file flat against that existing slant and follow it. Do not invent a new angle. Follow the one that is there. For a shovel, that slant is about 45 degrees, a good stout wedge. And that is not an accident. That is the angle the men who make shovels settled on over 100 years, because it bites and it lasts. For a hoe, it is a touch finer, 30 or 35 degrees for the general run of them, because a hoe slices weeds more than it chops earth. But you do not need to remember those numbers. You need to find the slant already on the tool and match it. And here is a plain trick to find it and keep it, and it costs you a marker pen. Color the whole bevel, the slanted edge, black with a marker. Then lay your file on and make 1 or 2 strokes and look. Wherever the black is rubbed away, that is where the file is touching. If the black comes off right at the very edge, your angle is too high. You are only sharpening the tip. If it comes off up the slope and leaves the edge black, your angle is too low, laid too flat. When the black comes off evenly all across the slant, you have found the tool's own angle exactly. And now you just hold that and go. That marker trick will teach your hands the right angle faster than any words I can say. Now you file. And a file, a proper mill file, cuts in one direction only, on the push away from you. So you set the file flat on the bevel at that angle, and you push it forward and across the edge, away from your body, one long, steady stroke using the whole length of the file. Then you lift it clean off and bring it back through the air and set it down and push again. You do not saw it back and forth. Back and forth just wears out your file and does no better work. Forward, lift, return, forward. Slow and steady. And you keep at it, matching that angle, and you watch the steel. Dull old steel is gray and dark. As the file cuts, you will see a bright, clean shine come up along the edge. You are done when that bright, even line runs the whole length of the blade. And here is the part that is the whole point of this video, so hear it. You stop there. When the bright line shows all along, you stop. You do not keep going trying to get it razor sharp. You do not thin it down to a knife. The moment you have a clean, even, bright edge at the tool's own angle, the tool is sharp, properly sharp, right sharp, and going further only makes it thinner and weaker and quicker to dull. Right, not keen. Stop at right. Now, one last thing, and the tool is done. When you file an edge, the metal pushes over to the far side in a tiny, thin curl called a burr. You can feel it with your thumb, a little wire lip on the back of the edge. You knock that off simple. Turn the tool over, lay the file flat on the back, dead flat, and make 1 or 2 strokes to wipe that burr away. Flat on the back, not at an angle. That is it. Do not sharpen the back into a second bevel, just wipe the burr. And now the edge is clean both sides, and it is finished. 5 minutes, 1 file. The tool's own angle, a bright, even line, knock the burr, done. And it will hold that edge through a real day's work because you left it strong. Now the pruner, and here I have to slow you right down, because everything I just told you about being bold with the shovel gets turned careful with the pruner. A pruner is not a shovel, and the man who files a pruner like a shovel will ruin a good pear in about a minute. I have seen it, and it is a sad thing, for a good pruner is dear. Here is the first thing to understand about your pruner. Most of the good ones are what they call a bypass pruner, and they cut like scissors. There is one blade that is truly sharp, curved and beveled on one side, and it sweeps past a second thick blade, the flat one, sometimes called the anvil or the hook, that does no cutting at all. It is just there for the sharp blade to pass by, the way the two blades of a scissor pass.
And this is the whole secret of the pruner, so hold on to it.
You sharpen the sharp blade only. Only the one beveled blade, only on its beveled side. You do not touch the flat blade. You do not touch the flat back of the sharp blade. If you go filing away at both sides, trying to make it sharp like a knife, sharp on both faces, you destroy the way the two blades meet, and now they do not pass clean, and the pruner chews and folds a stem instead of slicing it, and you have wrecked a fine tool. So, the one beveled blade, the beveled side only. Say it to yourself before you start.
For the pruner, you want a smaller file, a little 6-inch one. Or better, for a good hard pruner, a small sharpening stone or a diamond hone. Because the steel in a quality pruner is harder than a shovel's, and a big coarse file is too much for it. And same as before, you find the bevel that is already there, the factory slant, and you follow it. Do not invent a new angle on a pruner, ever. The factory angle is right and easy to wreck. A few light strokes along that existing bevel, following the curve of the blade, pushing the file or stone in one direction, away from the edge. Just enough to bring back the shine. A pruner needs far less than a shovel, just a freshening. Then, gently, feel for the burr on the flat back, and lay your file or stone dead flat on that back, and one light pass to wipe the burr, and no more. Flat, one pass, done. You are not sharpening the back, you are just wiping the wire off it. And while you have it in hand, a drop of oil in the joint where it pivots, and work it open and shut a few times. Half the pruners folk think are not dull at all, they are just stiff and gummed up in the joint, and a drop of oil does more than any filing. Clean the sticky sap off the blades with a rag, oil the joint, a few light strokes on the one bevel, and your pruner cuts like new. The honest word on the pruner. If the blade is chipped or rusted deep with pits right on the cutting edge, or if it is a cheap hardware store pruner with soft steel that never held an edge to begin with, sometimes the honest answer is a new blade or a new pruner. A good pruner is worth sharpening for 20 years. A $2 one may not be worth the afternoon. Know which you have.
And one plain word on the saw, since folk ask. A pruning saw, or a bow saw, you generally do not sharpen at all. The teeth are hardened and set in a way that is a real craft to redo, and a fresh replacement blade costs a few dollars. So on a saw, when it quits cutting, you replace the blade and you do not fuss with sharpening it. That is not me being lazy, that is the sensible thing, and the extension men say the same.
The last part takes 1 minute, and it is what makes the sharpening last. You finish every tool the same way, whether shovel or hoe or pruner. You wipe the fresh, bright edge and all the bare steel with a rag that has a little oil on it. Boiled linseed oil or plain mineral oil, the same cheap oil I have spoken of before. That thin coat of oil keeps the fresh, clean steel from rusting, for bare-filed steel is hungry for rust and will bloom orange in a damp shed in a week if you leave it dry. And I will say the fire warning once because it always gets said. An oily linseed rag left bunched in a pile can heat itself and catch fire on its own. So lay it flat outdoors to dry before you throw it away. Every time. No exceptions. Then you store the tool right, and you keep that edge. A sharpened edge that bangs against concrete and other steel tools in a heap goes dull again in no time. So hang your tools, edges not knocking against anything. And if you have kept up with me these weeks, you have that bucket of oiled sand by the shed door, and the shovel and hoe get their plunge into the sand on the way in, which cleans and oils them in one go. And a tool kept that way needs sharpening maybe once a season instead of once a week. That is the whole of it. Right angle, not razor. File, not grinder. The tool's own bevel. A bright, even line. Stop when it shows. The one blade on the pruner. A wipe of oil. And an edge that holds. I want to leave you with the thought my grandfather left me, because it is worth more than the method. He said, a tool will tell you how to care for it, if you have the humility to look, instead of deciding you already know. I came at that shovel with my own idea, sharper is better, and I forced it, and I ruined good tools for years being clever. The day I stopped and actually looked at the edge that was already on the tool, and followed it instead of overruling it, was the day I stopped ruining tools. The tool knew its own angle all along. I just thought I knew better. There is a whole way of living in that if you want it. A great many things in this world already have the right shape worn into them by people who came before and knew what they were about. And our job is often not to be clever and invent, but to look close and follow the line that is already there. The shovel knew. So did a good many other old things. So tell me in the comments, what tool have you been fighting with, sharpening and never getting to hold? A hoe, a shovel, an old pair of pruners from your father? Tell me which, and tell me if you have been, like I was, trying to make it a knife. I read every one, and I suspect a great many of us have been filing away at the wrong angle for years, and it will do us good to know we are in company. And if you would care to put another old skill in your hands next week, subscribe, and you will find the way back. Until then, remember, a digging tool is not a knife. Right, not razor. Follow the angle the tool already knows, and it will work sweet and hold its edge through an honest day. God keep you, friend. We will talk again.